what happens. Maybe give your suggestions for who you would like to have for some intro music and some other things. Anyway, Between Two Wheels podcast, thank you everyone for joining us. I thought at first we should probably, I'm not going to bash firefighters, teachers, clergy, small furry kittens. I mean, those are all wonderful things, are they? I have issues with every single one of those, as you can possibly imagine. This week, though, I thought maybe I'd just do a real quick recap of kind of some comments from last time, and we'll have those in some of our mailbag. Look, last time we had a lot of comments on our episode 159. If you didn't see that before, check that out, especially the YouTube one, because we throw out there the body cam and the dash cam video of the arresting officer for Javiar Lopez. Was that his name? I believe so. In Florida, ran a stop sign, got arrested for it. I thought it was egregious. Anyway, look, I appreciate all the comments. Actually, I do. Most of them were respectful. Some of them were insightful. Sometimes there was a combo of those. Some things, a little degrading on YouTube as well. We didn't need all that. But look, some comments were more in line with what I expected. And to name, some of them called the police names and a few slurs thrown at cyclists. That was all not necessary. But all welcome and all expected for YouTube. So that's what we get. Facebook as well. Look, if you want to make fun of men wearing Lycra out in public and riding their bikes, I'm the last guy to stop you. I mean, in fact, if you want to hear that type of abuse, if I want to hear that type of abuse, I just usually go home and listen to my wife. She can make fun of me dressed in that clothes all the time. So that's really not a problem. But look, the point of the last episode was really about defending the cyclist. It wasn't actually about defending him. It wasn't even defending the officer or kind of calling out the officer. It's mostly about what I thought was an aggressive behavior by the police of arresting this guy, blowing the stop signs, look, I'm not going to defend cyclists for wearing mirrors and all these other things. The point was this particular arresting officer, I thought he did something unjustly. And how are we to we're at the mercy of him. He's not Barney Fife, but he's not RoboCop. And so whoever pins that badge on there and decides to haul someone into jail for that, there could be consequences both ways. Well, my feeling was there's not as much consequence on one side as there is on the other. Lastly, I'd also like to point out each side, this political spectrum, possibly we can be more accountable for our current environment. I think we are. Anyway, to say my commentary was... Was it incendiary? Possibly. Look, I talked to one police officer out there on our ride on this weekend. Nice gentleman. He's probably what I would consider the exception to the rule. He had quite a few things. He says, look, we don't have quotas where I'm at. We don't put protect and serve in there. What if this kid actually goes to court and he admits to, he saw the officer and waved? Yeah, that's another thing. Look, we all saw this issue, and I just think that it could have been done much better. I think the police officer just had something in mind, and he saw the kid, and that's what he was going to do. That's look. I'll say, some say that my commentary wasn't kind to the police. I'll say that. And I had better watch myself out there. And if that doesn't make my point, I don't know what else does. Epstein didn't kill himself. Is that where we're going on this? All right. Maybe we should start out with the Tour of Colombia 6-day stage race. I'm going to highlight this and the Tour de la Provence in France. Tour of Colombia is obviously in Colombia. Provence one is down in Provence region there in France. I'm going to highlight both of these because I think they both had some cool results and for different reasons, just kind of spectacles. Pretty exciting way to start the season, actually, in both of them. So I have a little highlight video we're going to kind of run here, and I'll talk about it for both of those. Maybe we can make sure to get that all set up just right. But the 6-day stage race in Colombia, it was either climbs or it was sprints. And the sprints were taken all by the same gentleman from the UAE. Well, it also had a team time trial, low Merck style. Started out stage one, won by EF, Education First, a little hint of things to come. Now, you saw them, too, in the Colombian Nationals, the road race. They won that. I think they won the time trial. And so those guys down there, they were already firing on all cylinders and in their homeland. They got a big race coming. And so EF has at least three Colombians that were in the top 5 there, giving away the results. But anyway, they won the TTT. followed by Deceuninck Quick-Step, Ineos, and Rally. And it was all Merck style. So then stage 2, you had UAE sprinter Milano Benavides of Colombia over Hodeg of Deceuninck Quick-Step, and then Einhorn of Israel Cycling, Startup Nation. Note of that, Colin Joyce of Rally was 7th on the day. You're going to see Israel Startup Nation. They can't hit the win, but they're really knocking at the door on these sprints, from whether it's San Juan, whether it's here. And so they've been doing a really good job in Australia as well. But Rally, good showing by them. Like I said, they were 4th in the team time trial. They were Colin Joyce getting up here in the finishing. Stage 3 was more the same from Milano, UAE winning again, and Israel Startup Nation. Travis McCabe gets 8th place on that. And let's maybe go to some of the highlights that we had for for some of this for down in Colombia on stage 4. First of all, starting off, and we're going to just see a little bit of, it's going to be, you can see from 13K out, this was a climbing stage. So all the teams, it's like, I don't know, last 6K or so, it's pretty nasty climbing. All the teams, Deceuninck Quick-Step, they're hammering up with 13K to go. No one's out off the front. You've also got Ineos fighting for position here, and we'll end up skipping around on some of this here, but you can just, the riders are full-fledged, and then they hit the climb in Ineos. So you're going to see this over and over. Ineos on the front. They've got Carapaz, 5K to go. Carapaz is on the front. He's drilling it. You've got Bernal. I'm not sure who the other rider is with them. And then you got EF queuing up behind. You had a Deceuninck Quick-Step with Alaphilippe. He was also in the mix. He was looking pretty good as well. But, EF, they pretty strong. Deceuninck Quick-Step, they're not going to have, they had Jungles there. They had Alaphilippe. So you had 2 decent climbers. But, look, any of these early stage races, it's always the case. You don't know exactly who is going best for who and who's really, queued up for it on the early season. 5 to go. You got Carapaz on the front. He's weaving back and forth. He's got Alaphilippe on his wheel. Martinez is behind him. He crosses over, takes Martinez out, spills. Higuita has to curve around. Cavado of actually Higuita makes it. The other cyclist for EF, Cavado, I think his name is. He almost goes down. Those 2 guys end up having to chase, and you got Carapaz on the front here who didn't go down. He just knocked over Martinez. He just keeps the pedal on. You can see here, if you end up watching this replay of the crash, Martinez is kind of going. He looks over to his right, but then, man, Carapaz just takes out his front wheel. Pretty bad there. Okay, 3K to go. You've got Carapaz once again still just drilling it on the front here. Actually, it looks like Bernal is on the front with Carapaz kind of sitting on his wheel. I'm not sure what the plan was here, but then you've got 3 or so EF guys all set up behind. You have some Continental gentlemen in here. Look, Higuita, you should take a look at him, the way he rides. I don't know if it's his setup. Maybe he's just so small, but it kind of looks like he's riding an extra big bike because his handlebars are a little bit up. 2K, you get another Continental rider taking off, and Carapaz ends up just hitting out. And Carapaz takes everyone by storm. Look, this guy won the Giro last year. He's no short shrift on what he can do, but he takes off. And a little bit of weirdness here from EF. You have 3 guys. Cavado is on the front with Martinez in second place, followed by Alaphilippe, and then Higuita, followed by Bernal. And so Bernal's not going to do any chasing of his own teammate. 2K to go. This Carapaz still off the front, and you don't see necessarily a real big concerted effort by EF. Now, I don't know if EF really knows at this point who their outstanding guy is going to be. They end up doing pretty well overall, but they don't really necessarily have a concerted effort as to who the main guy is. The Quivado, he seems to be the lower end of the totem pole for those 3 of Higuita and Martinez. So he does a little bit of extra work, but still not quite sure who the others are. And look, who ends up saving the day for them here is going to be Alaphilippe. They're inside a K. Carapaz actually has this win. Pretty much looks like it's in hand. He's looking pretty solid. And who is going to be chasing him? It ends up being Alaphilippe. Alaphilippe comes up inside the last 150 meters, about 300 meters here. Once again, EF never really considered an effort to chase, but Alaphilippe, I think he maybe gets ahead of himself as to what his abilities and what other people can do. But here's where you're going to see Higuita. This guy has kind of been, maybe he's the new Valverde on the block. Alaphilippe sprints up, keeps looking back. He can't get rid of Higuita. Bernal's sitting on the wheel too. Alaphilippe comes through, and then Higuita just punches it, takes over, pulls through. Alaphilippe ends up not having anything left, and Bernal actually takes him on the line, with Higuita being able to post up quite nicely for the finish and the stage win on the day for stage number 4. So good for him. He takes that. You got Higuita winning that, Bernal in second place. Alaphilippe, overall, Higuita takes the lead, and he's going to take that. And can he hold that in? Well, they have a pretty good team to hopefully allow him to do so. So, okay, so I'm going to set now up some other video here of the last few stages that we had. We had stages 5 and 6 coming into the finish here, and you're going to end up basically seeing the same exact type of thing with the gentlemen here. So you got stage 5, not such the best quality of video. You ended up having quite a quick step guy off the front. I think it was Urquesi, followed with Bob Jungels. And Jungels, they have just a little bit of a gap coming into the last. But UAE is not going to have it. They just had their Milano guy slaughter everyone in stages, 2 and in stage 3. So he's looking to get back on form, and you're going to have Israel Startup Nation. DeCorner Quickstep obviously is in here. But this Milano guy, he's I don't know if he's the next great. It's hard to tell sometimes with these races that are kind of, we're spread all around the country, all around the world actually, with different spots. And they're coming into the last few bit here, and this Milano guy ends up winning a bunch of stages. But who is he racing against? He's not against Gaviria. He's not against Cavendish, even though Bob Jungels tends to do a lead out here. You got Startup Nation. They're hitting off on the one side, and they come into kind of a weird chicane corner here. Urquesi on the front. And Israel Startup Nation is bumping and grinding. You have Travis McCabe in there. You have some rally. And next thing you know, you got Milano taking the win for UAE, his 3rd stage win of the race. Pretty impressive. He might be the next guy. I need to look maybe a little bit more into him. He might be the next guy that we're going to be looking for like Milano Benavides, Hodag, Restrepo, McCabe, Colin Joyce, the 2 guys in the top 10 there, all the way down to Chavez and some of these others that top 40. Higuita, Martinez in second, Cuadro in third, Bernal in fourth. And then you're coming into the last stage 6 of the race, last 3 kilometers. Pretty exciting. You got this. Now look, so Ineos has finally figured out. They're thinking it's going to be Bernal. Okay. So you've got Ineos is leading out for him. You got a few other guys sending their guys up the road. And what you're actually going to see here is Bernal doing a ton of work on the front once Carapaz decides that he is no longer, and these guys are flying. But one thing to kind of really look at this is what is impressive about the Tour of Colombia is just the crowds, the massive crowds up and down all the way up this climb. And even in the last 3K, it's just chaos. I don't remember if you saw last year, the final day was similar, where the crowd was out of control. They couldn't keep them off the barriers. They couldn't keep them out of the road. They took down several riders. At one point, the crowd was all in there. Last 2K, Egan Bernal comes to the fore, and he just decides to light it up. It's Egan Bernal pulling. There's 2 guys still off the front that they're trying to catch, but I don't think you're too concerned with them because there was a little jockeying back and forth before those 2 guys ended up going up the road. They were both Continental riders. And what you end up seeing here is that Bernal just takes the 4, comes past these riders, and he's got 3 riders in tow. You got Higuita, who's at this point the overall leader. You got Martinez, who is the overall second place. Then you have Cuadro, who is third place, I believe, going into this point. And then Bernal in fourth place. And he's trying to get rid of any of these guys he can. And they don't really have to do much. It's all a defense here. They just have to basically say, hey, we'll just try to hold on as best we can. and you get rid of us. And damn, Bernal is doing everything he can. I don't know if these guys are climbing in their big ring, but they are flying up this climb, and Bernal is doing everything he can to dislodge them. And Higuita, resplendent in an orange jersey, just sticks on there. And then you've got Martinez and then Cavado in last place. A little more of a struggle. Feel gaps start to open up on him. And then there's another rider, I'm not sure his name, but he was a Continental rider as well. Bernal, look, probably one of the, as we've mentioned here, especially with the Tour de France last year, probably one of the best riders, climbers in the world at this point. And he's in his home race. I don't think he came in quite, I think he'd had a wreck previously. I don't know if he was quite to the spot where everyone else was. So now you start having Danny Martinez go up into his third place around Cavado, because I think he's a little concerned about him. And Martinez, there's a chance that Bernal could get any of these riders, because he was maybe 20, 30 seconds off of second place or third place. So he was going to do what he could to dump these. Like I said, Bernal, maybe one of the best riders, climbers in the world at this point, but he's got 3 EF riders on his wheel not getting dropped. You don't see that. And I mean, Jonathan Vaughters, he's kind of, I don't know if he's the Oakland A's right now. They're back in their Moneyball days where they're always picking up kind of some people. They're doing the best that they can with what they have. But he has tapped in, and you've got these 3 climbers from Colombia, at least early on in this year, really, really impressive. And Higuita last year, Higuita came up halfway through the season, signed with them, came and did the Tour of California, was able to hang on to Pogacar and up Baldi. And then I won a stage also at the Vuelta a España last year for them. So he had a wonderful season, and he's a little guy. If you look at him on this bike, he's not very big. And once again, you'd think here, so Bernal's leading them into the last, few K. It's still, the climb is pitching up. And you have now Cavado has been distanced. You've got Danny Martinez and Higuita just still staying on his wheel. Higuita's a little guy, man. It's a tiny bike he's riding. But you'd think maybe if they had the ability, because do they want to go for the stage win, or do they just want to get the overall win? And, maybe they want to do both. Bernal is doing everything he can to climb onto the podium, and he's still just stretching his lead out as far as, trying to do all the work. He's stretched it out over Cavado, who he's been able to distance a little bit, but he's not been able to actually dump everybody else quite yet. And then you're expecting EF Education First here to, watch out for the riders, and Bernal kicks once again. And at this point, you're going to see Danny Martinez, and you're going to see Higuita. And I don't know if Higuita or Martinez was trying to get, because he was only down, I think, 8 seconds or so off of Higuita. So he was trying to go for the overall. He's also going for the stage win. And in the end, you get Danny Martinez going 1, Higuita going 2, but not enough time to change the overall. And then you get Bernal in third place on the finish for the day. With that, you get an amazing top here for EF Education First. They get first, they get second overall, and I believe they get fourth as well. So Danny Martinez in the stage, Higuita second, Bernal third, Flores, and then Cueto of EF in fourth place there. All the way down, Oscar Sevilla, 14th place. I think he's like 50 years old. Rigoberto Urán, another Colombian, 21st place. And lastly, of the overall, Higuita wins the overall. All right, well, that's the Tour of Colombia. It was very impressive to see, like I said, the crowds, the racing that you had there. And I don't know if it's possible to, at some point, move racing to Colombia just completely. Maybe what we're going to have to do, because the crowds are so amazing, and the spirit is so exciting down there for what you have, that it looks like possibly that's going to be the big boom. Maybe it's going to be to the point where you're going to have, everyone is going to just queue up for the Tour of Colombia, and that's going to be, it happened in the 80s. It was a big deal. They had Café de Colombia with their whole team. They had Kelme. There were a bunch of Colombians there. Colombians came in on postal service. I mean, they've been throughout, but they kind of waned their significance in the peloton as it's been. And so it's been pretty exciting. I mean, look at the up and down. You got the sprinter, you've got the climbers, and for EF Education First, it's got to be pretty exciting to see what is happening. All right, how about the Tour de la Provence? This is in France, like I said, 4-day stage race, including a stage at Mont Ventoux. The Mont Ventoux stage only went up to the chalet. You might remember a few years ago when they had Chris Froome fell. They had the wreck with Richie Porte. They go into the back of the motorbike. Chris Froome is running up the road. Well, that's where they ended up that day. Thomas de Gendt, I think, ends up winning on that day. The final day, the stage up there, not the final stage, but that stage up there, up to the halfway up. They didn't go to the top that day in the Tour because I think that's 2017 maybe, because they won, or 2018, because they wanted to, or they couldn't because of the high winds. So they had all this crowd pushed down lower slopes, and instead of spreading it out 21K, it was all back in the bottom 9K there. Anyway, so this race, there's probably snow on the top of Ventoux, so they're going to go up there. Anyway, stage 1 starts out. You got a sprint going on here. The bad boy of French cycling, bad boy of cycling in general, Nasser Bouhanni, stage 1 sprint. And it's got some bendy roads. He did a good job of popping himself out and getting the win for Arkea Samsic. Little note of things to come. Good for him. And then stage 2, up and down most day with the finish uphill in the last 2.3K. And we're going to start off with some of the highlights for that. And look, you've got Vlasiv, I think, for Astana. And here we go. And he ends up taking some time. He hands out. He ends up getting the win. Everyone else just kind of, it was a weird day for watching the actual climbers, because even though it was a climbing stage, you had Barguil getting kicked out, and I think it wasn't maybe possibly hard enough for everyone. And then you end up seeing kind of a mishmash of riders coming into the finish for the rest of them. Not Wilco Kelderman, Thibaut Pinot was kind of in there. Sepp Kuss is kind of in the back section. But it wasn't too much of an impressive split off. If you watch any of the video on that, you're going to see that the climb just wasn't hard enough to make that much of a. So yeah, Vlasov, Wilco Kelderman, Magnus Kort, some of those others are there. All right, profile for the next day, as you can see there, it ends up on Mont Ventoux. And we start off on Mont Ventoux stage with coming into it. It's not a long stage, but you've got, there you go. So you see the last 9K kicks up to the top of the climb there, and up to the Cat 1. They're giving that a Cat 1 billing. All right. Remy Cavagna, you might remember, he's off in a break. He's got 30-some K to go. He's sliding around these corners, and you're like, oh, I remember Remy Cavagna. Yeah, Tour of California. Look how I corner here. I don't know how to go down to the row left-hand corner. Okay, and I'm showing some of this of Remy Cavagna in the Tour of California and his descending, only to kind of compare it to what he was doing now. He ends up, I don't know if he did some off-season training, but man, he is taking much different lines. You can see he's sliding over. He's actually committing to the corners, which is part of the problem that you were seeing him before. He wasn't committing. He was more upright. And man, he's really at this point bending himself, twisting over, and giving himself a much better opportunity to get down the road. And getting down the road in a way that doesn't look like it's going to kill him. All right, so 30-some K. He hits the climb, 9K to the finish. And he's already got about 2.5-minute lead at this point. He had his lead up to around 5 minutes. So you're like, can you do it? I think Eros Poli, I don't know if you remember that name, back in the 80s or 90s, he had taken 20-some minutes over the top of Ventoux. And actually the finish that day went over the top, but he ended up by the top of that climb, holding on to like a minute or two, and I think he won the stage. Anyway, 7K to go here. This is kind of where you're going to see a resurgence of Nairo Quintanna. He's got, some decent climbers in here with him. Vlasiv of Astana is there, Lutsenko. But you got Nairo Quintanna, Sepp Kuss right in the mix here, Hugh Carthy, Thibaut Pinot. And our guys are already getting split off the back. And you have Nairo Quintanna just having his teammate 7K here, pushing it. Remember, they only have to go, halfway up this climb, so it's not such a bad deal. But Nairo Quintana, he hasn't really been the bold rider that he was back in 14 to 16 or so. And here he goes. He hits it, and Sepp Kuss decides to go with him. It's probably to Sepp Kuss's ultimate demise as far as top in this race, because he can't do it. And it's wisely he actually sits up, but he should have actually probably sat up a little bit more, because then you see Nairo here, 7K. He is blitzing himself up the road, and he is not to be seen again. Behind you got Lutsenko, you got Hugh Carthy, you have a few Thibaut Pinot's getting distance. Vlasov, who is the stunner rider that was in the leader's jersey up to this point, he's already been distanced. But Sepp Kuss decides that he's going to continue out, and Lutsenko has been in the news lately. Maybe you remember him. He was the one that was rumored, along with his teammate Jakob Folsom, to have been working with Dr. Michele Ferrari. By the way, he doesn't take a look at Hugh Carthy, super skinny climber. Sepp Kuss, little guy, little climber. Nairo Quintana, another little climber. Lutsenko, not so much. He's a little bit different body build than you would expect from those others. 4K, Nairo's lead has been now growing up to a minute. Very impressive. He just keeps putting the pedal down and getting further and further. Vlasov has now decided to step it up. I don't know why he was having trouble to begin with, but he ends up pulling himself back up to Lutsenko and Hugh Carthy, who have now gone through Sepp Kuss. Sepp Kuss is back with there's a Ineos rider. I'm trying to remember his name. We'll get that probably here at some point. Thibaut Pinot is another one, and then Sepp Kuss. Sepp Kuss still, during this climb, he keeps trying to get away from the group he is and up to Hugh Carthy. He can't quite do it, but he's got enough punch in him that you can tell he's almost there. And I think you give him a few more years. First of all, this is a pretty impressive climbing group that you have in general, especially with Nairo there. Nairo ends up putting the time up to this section. I think he ties it or he beats it overall for the best time. Hugh Carthy tries to drop Lutsenko and Vlasov several times. Like I said, Nairo ends up getting the fastest time recorded up to the chalet, I think, at this point, or at least ties it. Some things to keep in mind. This is, typically when they're doing Mont Ventoux, you're going to do, he's inside 200K, but when you're doing Mont Ventoux during the tour, it's, stage 10 to 15 around there, and you've already been worn down. You've done a long stage. This is not the same thing, and typically the time's all the way up to the top as well. So, look, first thing your reaction might be, oh, my word, Nairo, he puts his time up there faster than Pantani, and you know what Pantani means, blood doping, the whole thing. But I think like I said, you've got to step back just a little bit and say, what was the circumstances that Pantani's done it under compared to Nairo? Stage 3 of a La Provence race. He's probably not at all worn out. He's had the whole winter to rest up. Comes across the line, crosses himself, ends up getting a nice win. And behind, Hugh Carthy is still trying to do what he can to get back up to at least a second place. I think there's some time bonuses here. So Vlasov is the leader overall. He's still worried about, his placing overall. And Lutsenko decides to, okay, well, we're going to take at least, I guess his thinking for that is instead of leading Vlasov up, he's going to take the time bonus away from Hugh Carthy. But I don't think Hugh Carthy was a detriment overall. You're really looking through Nairo above. So maybe a little weirdness between Lutsenko, Vlasov right there. And then you see, look, going to have to give it to Sepp Kuss. I think as an American, we're pretty excited. He won the stage last year in the 2019 Vuelta a España. He ends up popping himself out here to the side and getting a 7th place, I believe, on the day. So, look, Nairo, well-deserved win on Ventoux. Anytime you win on Ventoux, Alpe d'Huez, it's, signature climb. I don't care if you're only going up to the chalet and, tree line and you're not going all the way to the top. Still 9Ks this time of year. Him riding in his new team, new kit, Arkea Samsic, Nairo Quintana, Lutsenko in second, a minute and a half back. So he took a minute and a half on those guys. Hugh Carthy is no slouch climbing. Vlasov, Eddie Dunbar over Sepp Kuss, and the rest. You saw Chad Haga, 3:45 down, 19th place on the day, just around the Warren Barguil stage. So Domenico Pozzovivo and a few others. Nairo Quintana takes the overall win over Vlasov by 1:04. Lutsenko in second, 1:28. Hugh Carthy, Kelderman, Sepp Kuss, 8th place, 2:26. Well done. Pretty exciting. David Godot down there in 10th place overall. And Sam Uman, 20th. Warren Barguil, 15th. Maybe Barguil's going to be a little bit replenished for the next year. So coming to stage 4, for me, it was pretty exciting. You wake up, I was watching this. Ian Garrison, he is in the break all day. These guys, look at this. So you've got 50-some seconds. There's about 16K. They're going to crest the top of the climb. And you expect, and the climbers have been shutting this thing down. They had several minutes. And at this point, they're about to crest over the top. And like I said, only 16K with 50-some seconds. But here's what the problem is behind. The problem behind is these guys didn't want Bahani or some of these other sprinters. So the climbers teams and Lutsenko and his Astana team, they wanted the win as well. So they end up putting the fire to themselves and the whole squad, well, the whole peloton, to the point where they get rid of the sprinters. Okay, well, you come over the top. You've got, 50 seconds down on these 4 guys up front, but you've got 4 guys, at least 3 guys that are pretty damn good time trialists. And with that, you're depleted your own peloton to the point where you don't have the sprinters teams to do some chasing. So in the end, comes down to the last K. These guys still have 10 seconds. You got the one Conti rider. He takes a shot at Bramley and Owen Duell, and then Ian Garrison, the American, on DeQuanta Quick Step. And they have a last, 7/10 of a kilometer here. They're only up by 8 seconds. How was the pack not? And who was leading on the pack? You had EF Education first. I don't know who they were racing for, kind of in the sense for this last kilometer. Once again, 8 seconds. There's someone in between the field and these 3 guys. The Continental rider takes a shot at it. In the end, you have Israel Startup Nation, Bramley, and then Owen Duell. Owen Duell, not the time trialist, but a little bit more of a sprinter than these other guys. He ends up taking the post-up win. Big one. Remember, 50 seconds coming in the last 16K, 10 seconds the last few kilometers, and they couldn't shut it down. Partly, why? Because they didn't have a sprinters team to do so. So in the end, Nairo Quintanna, he ends up getting his overall GC win, Tour de la Provence. Starts the season out pretty well. You're going to be able to see the finish here one more time. Ian Garrison, we've talked about him, U23. He lit it up last few years. He got his chance this year with DeQuanta Quick Step. And in his first big race, he gets a podium. So what more you want from that? Owen Duell wins that. Bramley second. Ian Garrison, third place. And overall, Nairo Quintanna with Vlasov in second and Lutsenko in third. Hugh Carthy down there in fourth. So look, great to see that. Once again, Ian Garrison in the sprint, in the break. And what more can you ask for that, huh? All right, let's talk about the Folsom Crit. Folsom Crit happened as the local racing that we have here in Northern California. And it turned out to be huge fields for us. I don't think I'm going to actually try to. There's some videos I posted on our Facebook page. So you can take a look at some of the winners for that. Let's take a look at some, and I'll just read off here and go to kind of where we have for some results. In the Masters 35, that was a race I did there. We had Josh Wood. He got the best of us for the Folsom bike team. With Jeff Scott, and maybe we should take a look at that video, because Josh Wood came around the corner. He had that clearly won. He posts up way too soon, then looks around, and I think he said this finish line was, he thought it was before him. There's a shadow. Our guy Jeff Scott keeps kicking and almost gets him at the line. It was pretty much a photo finish. Sam Benedict, the actual national crit champion for the 35s, was in third place. Peter Carolin, the Olympic Club, in fourth. Michael Sayers in fifth place, and Michael Claudio in sixth. I'll just say Jeremy Cotel of Touchstone. So Touchstone had Sayers as well. They got new jerseys out this year. Jonathan Baker, Chris Baker, Cotel, Mike Sayers, they all looked really good out there, and congrats for those guys. Look at that. Tyler Janke down in 32nd place. 45, 1, 2, 3. Dean LeBurge had a great sprint there, winning the field sprint over Chris Baker for Touchstone, and Mike Sayers in third for Touchstone as well, with Kyle Glarum of the Pete's Coffee, and then John Fairbanks. Man, Touchstone won. They got second, third, fifth in there, and then Scott Cox for Pete's. Pretty good result there. We had, the men's 2-3. we'll look at that one real quick. Ken Tsuda and Alex Akins, and then Jeff Scott of Data Driven Athlete was first. He actually won the field sprint. Those two guys kind of stayed off the front, and the field kind of came all up to them at the end. That race also had, at one point, the race was neutralized. It was neutralized basically for the reason that our friend Garrett Smith, I think that's his name. Yeah, Garrett Smith of the Sierra Nevada racing team. I thought maybe there was a wreck. They had to call an ambulance. It was kind of horrific thing, but I think it was an issue with asthma, and he had kind of fainted as he pulled off the side of the road. So it wasn't during the race or wrecking. I mean, that he was standing on the side of the road when that happened. So really glad to hear that he's okay. I haven't been able to talk or speak with him, check out, but look, we never want anything real bad to happen to anybody, obviously, and we're really hoping that that he is okay. I did not get a chance to. Didn't want to issue a challenge somehow. I did not get a chance to video the women's race, but they had a pretty good field. Look, all these races actually really big fields. We had in the Masters 35, 70 some, I think. It was at least that much in the P1-2. I did P1-2s and the 35s. The women's Pro 1-2-3, they had 20 actually enter the race, and that was pretty stellar for them. But it was kind of dominated by the ATX Wolfpack team. Summer Moak with the win, Haley Smith in second, Melanie Wong, who was with she was with Mike Bikes. I don't know who she. Show Air 2020, I think last year she rode for them as well, but she was back with the ATX Wolfpack. Jennifer Wilson of Los Gatos in fourth, Celine Oberholzer and Eleni Weissman. I thought Eleanor Velez, she says here ninth place, but I thought she was up there a little higher. But good. It was good to have a little bit more show up for the women's racing this year, at least out there for this race in particular. The men's P1-2-3 won by Matt Chatleong, and you can see a video of him on Jeff Linder's NorCal Cycling videos website or YouTube channel. He put a pretty good finished video there. Last few laps, they broke it down together. Luke Lamperti was out there for the Lux Sideshow, presented by Specialized Team. In second place, and Taylor Vicari of the Chico Cycling Team was in third. Isaiah Chass in fourth. Michael of Tarun Elite in fifth place. Look, that race was actually, they had 9 preems throughout the day. I think Luke won 6 of them. Yours truly won the very first one. Honestly, I don't think anyone heard the bell. I came through. I was in good position. I heard the bell. It seemed a little weak. And then when we came through the other side, there was maybe 4 of us. I got on these guys and I did a sprint and easily took that one. Once again, I'm almost sure no one knew that there was a preem lap. At least it was odd, because the next ones I'm like, oh, this is the way it's going to be. I'm going to keep going for these preems. And they actually had a crowd preem of $140. And I kind of went for that one. I think I was like 4th, but not even close. I mean, Lamperti's like killing it. I wasn't close on any of the other ones, but hey, why not keep trying? Because when you've got big prizes out there, which they actually had at the Folsom race this year, it was worth actually going for it. So I tried, I got those, and at least I got one. I got some science at sport and some beta. I don't know what it is. I haven't even actually checked it out at this point, but I'm pretty excited to try it and supply my team with it. I don't know. Anyway, everybody, how about some things that make you go, Things that make you go, All right. Well, this week I saw just today Show Air, which we just mentioned, 2020. They saved $35,000 by not registering with the UCI. Whoa, what's going on here? Well, Show Air, they have Chloe Dygert mentioned. They have Nelson Palace's sister, Shayna Palace. She rides for them. They have a pretty good team. I think last year, I know they went down to the Tour Down Under. I'm not sure if they did this year, and maybe this is why you're not really seeing them out and about on the big stage. But they decided they did not renew or take up their UCI Continental license. It would have cost Nicole Cramner, the owner there, $11,000 plus an upfront $25,000 bank guarantee. But it was worth it in previous years because it allowed domestic teams to be invited to World Tour events like the Tour of California. As we know, there's no Tour of California this year. That's their big race, so they're not even going to take part of it. So a team like Show Air 2020 races primarily on the domestic scene in Northern California, Northern America, and they don't travel overseas, and they're not going to do so this year. So a license, UCI license, or at least it's not worth it, the hefty fees. Cramner estimates they saved roughly $35,000 in the UCI fees by instead paying USA Cycling a $400 registration fee to become a women's domestic elite team, along with the $350 race clean fee, which will get her team into all of the events across North America. So perfect. They, like I said, they get to save a little bit of their money. How's that going to affect Chloe Dygert in her racing this year? Well, actually it won't, because they said she's primarily doing time trials. And since she's only been doing time trials and she's still, working up to worlds and the Olympics, then that is kind of the Olympics is their big deal. So that's kind of her focus. It's not going to really affect the team. Once again, Tour California has ramifications throughout. And one of those is, the women's Show Air 2020. Now, look, is it going to be somewhat bad because some of these females didn't get a chance to possibly race overseas? I don't know if they would have. I think like I said, they were at the Tour Down Under last year, so maybe it would have made a little bit of difference. All right, how about some winners and losers before we get out of here? I'm going to go with the winners of EF Racing and their young Colombian contingent. These three took it to the other teams in Tour Colombia, and they gave their home country a really good show. I mean, when you're getting first and second, and you're taking it to Egan Bernal. Now, Bernal's obviously Colombian as well. Remember, Carapaz is Ecuadorian, so he was up there in the mix, but they couldn't allow that to happen. But you say that, and you go like, oh, it's home country. All these Colombians are winning. I mean, there's other people there as well. I think Gavin Mannion was top 10. I think was he there or was he? Yeah, because he was the rally. So, he was top 10 in a stage or two, and he was doing fine. But I think when those guys are down there and the crowds are so huge, and these guys are just like, it's their big race of the year. They're obviously motivated for it. This is a big deal for them. And EF came out. Those guys really took it. I mean, Bernal's no slouch. He won the Tour de France last year. He's a guy to be reckoned with. And so congratulations to EF and their young guys. They get all their wins. Who has not won a race this year on the World Tour? I don't know who it is, but I think CCC. I think CCC is the only team that has not yet won a race for a World Tour team. And so keep your eyes open for them. How about losers? Well, I'm going to flip over here. Recently I just talked about police and group rides. Well, this week I was involved in a local group ride that we do. Great weather, big group showed up. And what happened? Someone took a picture and posted it on a local, it's called Folsom Chat. And they posted it to this Facebook forum. The forum blew up with some sane comments from some cyclists, but mostly the community were over the top crazy. And I guess we aren't really as symbiotic as I had hoped. You can see here the post. It says the cyclists are out creating dangerous situations for themselves and motorists. And it's disrespectful as everyone has to wait behind them the length of Santa Juanita. That was a road. As you can see from the photos, they were riding up to 6 across. Well, that's actually some of the riders are. I'm going to point out who these people are, but near the back, but it's a little bit much there. In addition, they didn't stop or even slow down at the stop signs. Now, that's not completely true. There's a stop sign there. It's a 3-way T. It's a T, and the stop does not extend out through the bike lane, so we don't actually have to stop there. So that's not really an issue. I'm assuming that's the one she was talking about. So actually on that one, we were fine. And what? This goes back to one of my police officer friends that speaking with me. He's like, hey, maybe you don't remember. There was a time, though, we were late for a ride. And he goes, I ran a stop sign. And when I ran that stop sign, I got a ticket. And I'm like, did you tell him you're a cop? He's like, yeah, I told him. He kind of worked that in there, and they gave me a ticket anyway. So I don't know. Maybe he needs to work on his personal skills at work. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not calling him out who he is. He's a good guy, actually. One last thing, let's look at Cherry Pie. Said they had finally big pies coming in. And so what happened with the Cherry Pie race? Well, yesterday, we'll just go through some of the results here. Women's 4-5, 15-18 junior, 4-5 podiums. Brittany Brell won the women 4-5. Girls junior 15-18. Chantel Tupaz won that race, the Elite 5 podium. Akil Santo won that race, the Elite Four podium. Riley Mullen won that race, the women P123, the 35 plus 55 and 123 podiums. Danielle Mooreshead over Evelyn Hound and Thaler Mize for the 123 women. The women 35, no results. So I'm assuming no women 35, 123 showed up. Women 55, Elena Urowski won that. The junior men 4-5 podium, Cassius Anderson over Riley Mullen. You've got the Masters 35, 55, 4-5 podiums, David Lapointe over Christopher Flynn. And the Masters 55, 4-5, Christopher Rosso over Michael Saba. Let's keep going here. 35 podium, 123, Will Roffelmacher of the Olympic Club over Jonathan Baker, Touchstone Racing, with Dominic Howes of the Loon State Cyclists in third, and Dean LeBurge in fourth, with Matt Tufts in fifth of Folsom Bike. The Elite Threes, Fisher Curran of Butcherbox Cycling over Griffin Nemitz and Ryan Odell. Sierra Nevada Racing. Masters 45, Sean Smith, R4R, Make-A-Wish. Saw that pictures online here. Michael Foley of Cognition Racing, and then Jonathan Baker, Touchstone in third. Drum Nadol of Thirsty Bale in fourth. Jason Cruiser, R4R, Make-A-Wish. So they went 1 and 5, a little sandwich there. Masters 55, Greg Chapla wins that for Davis Bike Club. In the men podium, P123, Jeff Linder of Team Mike's Bikes, powered by Equator Coffees, first place over Yuri Gonzaga and Squadra Tarun, so his old teammate there, and Bradley Wiggs of Valor Factory, presented by I think that's Oak Valley Community Bank. Sam Bassetti of the Elevate KHS team, and Chris Reichert in fifth place for Mike's Bikes. So well done for all of those guys. I did not make it out there. I saw that they had real big pies this year instead of last year where they had, last few years, they had little mini micro pies that I got last year. Enjoyed it a lot, I guess. Well, how about some comments? Look, I don't even know if we're going to be able to go through all these. There's a lot of people had some really good comments. I kind of mentioned those up front. So maybe just check out our mailbag. Some people were bringing some things up back and forth. Like I mentioned, just the police officer that I talked to, just going to say, good guy, good friend, and really good conversation that was, good back and forth. There wasn't hostility. So I appreciate that from him. Most people were all that as well. Most people say, hey, look, this should have been a warning ticket. I get that. But if you have comments, concerns, anything else like that you want to put on our show, check out our YouTube page, our Facebook page, Instagram, anything else. So this has been episode 160 of the Between Two Wheels podcast. I appreciate everybody joining in. And look, if you want to get in touch with us, you can do so on our Facebook page under Between Two Wheels podcast. You can do Twitter, like I said, B2_podcast. You can do anything else as far as send us an email, send us whatever you want. Thank you for listening, especially the partners on the show, Chris and Kurt. Are they anywhere nearby? No? Anyway, once again, Tyler Janke, thank you for joining us. Next time, out.